The brain supplement industry is a $200 billion empire, yet dementia and brain fog are reaching epidemic levels. But look at this. A 97-year-old watchmaker in a small Swiss village still repairs microscopic gears with a steady hand and a perfect memory. He never took a nootropic in his life. His secret? Item number 4 on this list. It costs 12 cents. It's a waste product of the dairy industry, and it builds a protective shield around your neurons. Today, as a doctor, I'm revealing the 7 forgotten brain steel staples that kept our ancestors sharp while the modern world goes foggy. Let's look at the pot. Staple 1. The walnut and honey. Paste, the signature of intelligence. In the rural villages of the Mediterranean and the Caucasus, there was a specific famine candy given to students and elders alike, crushed walnuts mixed with a drop of raw, dark honey. They called it the student's fuel. As a doctor, I see the doctrine of signatures at work here. A walnut looks exactly like a human brain, and biologically, it is its perfect match. Walnuts are the only nut with significant amounts of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3. But the secret was the honey. Raw honey contains pinosembrin, a unique antioxidant that is almost exclusively found in bee products. Modern science now confirms that pinosembrin is neuroprotective. It reduces inflammation in the brain's microvessels. The elders who ate this 15-cent paste didn't have cognitive decline. They were fueling the glial cells, the cleaning crew of the brain. While we buy expensive omega-3 capsules that are often rancid by the time they hit the shelf, our ancestors were eating the whole, living fuel. This was the signature of intelligence that allowed a 90-year-old to recite thousands of lines of oral history without a single stumble. It is a lesson in brain-fat synergy that we have traded for processed granola bars filled with neurotoxic high-fructose corn syrup. Staple 2. The herring and vinegar bowl. The myelin repairer. In the coastal towns of the North Sea during the 1940s, meat was non-existent. The survivors lived on pickled herring. They ate the skin, the fat, and often the tiny softened bones. To a doctor, this is neurological insulation. Herring is one of the highest natural sources of vitamin B12 and vitamin D3. But more importantly, it is loaded with DHA, the specific fatty acid that makes up the myelin sheath. Think of myelin as the plastic coating on an electric wire. If the coating frays, the signal sparks and dies. That is brain fog. That is memory loss. The brain steel generation had thick, resilient myelin. They didn't have senior moments because their neurological wiring was perfectly insulated by the oily fish they were forced to eat. One 94-year-old former sailor told me he ate pickled herring every morning of the war. His mind, even at nearly a century old, was as fast as a lightning strike. He wasn't gifted, he was oiled. This 30-cent bowl is the ultimate repair kit for the aging brain. It's the Myelin Anchor that the modern low-fat craze has stripped from our diets, leaving our nerves exposed and our memories fading. Staple 3. The sage and apple. Infusion, the Acetylcholine Guard. In the old country, there was a saying, "Why should a man die who has sage in his garden?" In the 19th century, sage was the primary treatment for tired minds. Elders would steep fresh sage leaves with the peels of a tart apple. As a doctor, I find this survival tea fascinating. Sage is a natural inhibitor of acetylcholinesterase. That is a mouthful, but it means one thing. It stops the breakdown of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the primary neurotransmitter for learning and memory. In fact, most modern Alzheimer's drugs work by trying to do exactly what this 5-cent tea does naturally. The apple peels provided the quercetin, which works synergistically with the sage to protect the brain from oxidative stress. The brain steel generation didn't need smart drugs. They had a garden. They were maintaining their neurotransmitter levels with every cup. I spoke with a woman who survived the hardest years of the 1930s. She drank this infusion every afternoon. At 98, she was still the family's ledger, remembering every birth, death, and debt with surgical precision. She was guarding her acetylcholine with a weed and a scrap of fruit. It is a profound lesson in kitchen neuroscience. Staple 4. The whey and juniper. Tonic, the glutathione. Spark, This is the secret of the watchmaker. In the mountains, after making cheese, the whey, the cloudy liquid left behind, was never thrown away. It was fermented with wild juniper berries and drunk as a tonic. To a doctor, whey is the world's most bioavailable source of cysteine. Why does cysteine matter? Because it is the limiting factor in your body's production of glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant. It is the only substance capable of entering the mitochondria of your brain cells to scrub out the metabolic soot produced by thinking. The watchmaker who repairs those gears needs a brain that doesn't overheat. By drinking the fermented whey, he was providing his brain with a constant supply of glutathione. This 12-cent waste product is more effective than any IV detox offered by high-end longevity clinics. It is the glutathione spark that keeps the brain's engine clean. Our ancestors didn't have neuroinflammation because they were drinking the very thing we now flush down the drain. It is a biological betrayal of the highest order, and it's time we reclaimed the liquid gold of the dairy. Staple 5. The pig's brain and egg. Scramble. The phospholipid vault. This is the most controversial staple, but also the most powerful. In the hardship kitchens of the past, when an animal was slaughtered, the brain was the first thing eaten. It was scrambled with whole eggs and lard. As a doctor, I have to be blunt. If you want to rebuild a brain, you eat a brain. This meal is the world's most concentrated source of phosphatidylserine and choline. Choline is the building block of the cell membrane. Without it, your brain cells literally cannot hold their shape. The brain steel generation didn't have shrinking brains or atrophy. They were consuming the raw structural components of the nervous system. While we are told to eat lean proteins, our ancestors were eating the command center. I interviewed a retired butcher who reached 101 with zero cognitive decline. He laughed at the idea of memory pills. He said, "We ate the head, and we kept our heads." Biologically, he was 100% correct. This was the phospholipid vault that ensured their neurons remained dense and interconnected. It is a gritty, primal reality that the modern sanitized food industry wants to keep hidden from you. In the eras of war and blockade, real coffee and tea were gone. People turned to roasted chicory root and dried beet tops. They boiled them into a dark, earthy broth that cost almost nothing. To a doctor, this is vasodilatory medicine. Beets and chicory are incredibly high in inorganic nitrates. These nitrates are converted in the mouth and stomach into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes the smooth muscles of your arteries, specifically the ones that lead to the prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic and decision-making. Most brain fog is simply a lack of blood flow. The brain is starving for oxygen. The brain steel generation, by drinking this famine coffee, was keeping their cerebral blood flow at peak levels. They stayed sharp because their brains were constantly bathed in fresh, oxygenated blood. They didn't have vascular dementia because their 10-cent broth was doing the work of a blood pressure medication and a cognitive enhancer combined. It is the nitric oxide flow that we have traded for dehydrating, synthetic caffeine drinks that actually constrict blood flow to the brain. Finally, we return to the black gold. In the industrial cities of the 1940s, a spoonful of blackstrap molasses was stirred into a bowl of coarse, whole-grain porridge. As a doctor, I see the Myelin Anchor. Blackstrap molasses is rich in iron, but it is the trace minerals, specifically cobalt and copper, that are the unsung heroes of the brain. Cobalt is a core component of vitamin B12, cobalamin. Without these trace minerals, your body cannot synthesize the enzymes needed for neurotransmitter balance. The brain steel generation had a mineralized intelligence. Their thoughts were grounded in a stable chemical environment. I spoke with a 95-year-old former school teacher who still did complex calculus for fun. Her secret? A spoonful of black gold every morning. She wasn't just eating sugar. She was eating the concentrated mineral soul of the plant. This 15-cent habit protected her from the mental fatigue that plagues our modern, mineral-depleted society. It is the final lesson of survival. The depth of your thought depends on the depth of your minerals. The $200 billion brain health industry doesn't want you to look in your garden, your dairy waste, or your local butcher shop. There is no profit margin in a sage leaf, a walnut, or a cup of whey. They want you to believe that your mind is a fragile machine that inevitably breaks down without their expensive synthetic upgrades. But the 97-year-old watchmaker and the 95-year-old teacher prove them wrong. They show us that the human brain is designed to be steel. It is designed to be clear, fast, and resilient if we give it the survival staples it was built on. These 7 forgotten meals weren't about brain hacking, they were about brain building. My challenge to you is simple. This week, don't buy a smart pill. Buy a bag of walnuts, steep some sage, find some real whey. Sit at your table, set a place for yourself, and eat it slowly. Feel the pinosembrin calming your microvessels. Feel the DHA repairing your myelin. Feel the connection to the generations of humans who stayed sharp until the very end because they knew how to fuel their intelligence with the simplest things. Your mind is not a product. It is a heritage. These brain steel staples are the forgotten protocol of the most brilliant, resilient humans to ever walk the earth. If this video spoke to the truth you've been looking for, subscribe to the channel. We are tired of the sick care system, and we are getting back to the roots. Share in the comments. Which brain staple did your grandparents use to stay sharp? Because at Vaxalis, we believe the best brain is the one you build in the kitchen. I'm the doctor, and I'll see you at the next pot. Thanks for watching.